Well, salutations, fellow idiots. Welcome back to another episode of that Schlockaholics, baby. Of course, I am joined by my, regular co-host, Cody. Unfortunately, no Septum Sin today. This is on his off Saturday, so he's not going to be joining us. But we do have two very special guests that are related to the film that we're going to be covering tonight, and that is old Forrest B. Bennett, isn't it? Is there a B in there? Am I imagining that?
Yes, Forrest Bennett.
Yeah, he's down there enjoying some happy hour shit, waiting for that fucking Rangers game to get going, or maybe it's already gone. It looks like back there. They winning?
Unfortunately, it's the third period and they're getting their asses kicked.
That's good. I like that. Go Bruins.
Terrible.
Then we also got Matt Bruzio. Is that how you say that?
Bruzio.
Matt, was one of the leading men in my mind in this movie. He's definitely part of the cast. He had an amazing fucking wolf shirt on in the thing that I'm sure we'll get to talking about. It's in my notes here somewhere. So they're going to be kicking back with us to talk a little bit about Cody's selection, which was Camp Murder from 2021. I guess it was sort of both of our selection. We wanted to fill out these bonus episodes because Cody's going on a voyage across the high seas here in the very near future. So we wanted to stack some stuff out for you guys since we had to move our regular episodes back a couple of weeks, which is fine. It gives us an opportunity to cover stuff like this that has been curiosities on our list that we maybe couldn't cover otherwise, or just weren't going to be making it to the top of the heap, anytime soon, because we're still a new podcast. We're trying to work on covering a lot of those classic fucking schlock gems, the SOV stuff from the 90s, a lot of the stuff that came out like prior to this. I think this will only be like our second or third movie that we've done that came out in the last 3 years. So, we got to get those modern gems in there when we can, and Camp Murder seemed like a good choice to throw out.
And our first Polonia movie.
It is. Yeah, it is our first Polonia movie, which is crazy. I'm surprised that we didn't get one in there sooner. There was a brief moment where we almost covered Splatter Farm instead of Video Violence, but I had to go with Video Violence because it's just too near and dear to me. Is this maybe the Polonia gem we should have started with?
I would say Video Violence is a classic.
It really is, both of them. I especially like the second one a lot. But yeah, Camp Murder, Cody. What are your, what was your motivation for settling on this one, other than the obvious shit that we don't want to name drop right now?
It sounded like a good one, and then it's a Polonia Colazo kind of collaboration, so it just kind of seemed like a good one to go and hit since Will's been doing quite a bit of stuff lately, so it just felt like a good one to throw in there.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's it's kind of like the classic schlock era melding with the modern schlock era of dudes that are, like Polonia is obviously a huge name in the shit, and then Will Colazo is becoming a pretty big name in the shit. It feels like that dude's, his reputation precedes him a lot of the time. He's done some cool stuff. I know for a fact you and several of my other friends have participated in some of his crowdfunding, I feel like, and, have photos of yourselves that have shown up in his films. I will admit I'm not super familiar with his filmography. This might actually be the first Colazo project that I've watched. Is it, Cody? You would know better than I would.
It might be. I think so. Since you're more of the later day schlock, or I don't know, not later day.
Olden days, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much the 80s and 90s SOV guy. So this stuff's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but yeah, I mean, it's, I thoroughly enjoyed it. We'll get into our first impressions after we run the trailer here. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm glad that we went with this one. I threw out a couple other options when Cody was trying to decide what to do for his bonus episode here. I forget what they were now. I know there was another Polonia one. I think it was Channel 13 or whatever. And then I forget what the other ones I put now are. They're all pretty good selections, but I'm glad that we went with this one because it's somewhat fresh on people's mind, given that it just came out in the last couple of years. And obviously it worked out. We were able to grab Matt and Forrest for this sumbitch. So
here we are.
Yeah, let's run that trailer and then we'll jump into first impressions and these guys' history with old Will Colazo and Mark Polonia and all that good stuff. So the trailer, the wide release trailer from SRS.
Hey, Dr. Lewis, I hear it's your last week, huh?
That's right. 3 more days and it's over. So how's Tommy? Same old Tommy?
Yeah, he's a vegetable.
Can't wait until Roxy gets here. Yeah, it's been too long.
You guys ever heard about camp murder? There's a kid not too far from here. He massacred his whole campsite.
You mean Terrible Tommy? That's an old urban legend, Fred.
I need to know everything you know about Tommy.
Cut out! Everyone at the camp is in danger!
You mean old bastard. You want me to kill a mental patient?
I want you to make him disappear for good.
Now take me to Tommy.
Fucking psychopath!
Well, there it is, folks. The trailer for Camp Murder. Did I call it Camp Blood before I ran that?
How dare you, sir.
I hope not. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm gonna save my first impressions for last. I'm gonna go ahead, since this is your bonus episode, Cody. This is your send off into the great beyond. I hope you come back and don't end up in a Poseidon Adventure type situation. I'm worried about you, man. No, I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. What was your first impressions of this, and when was this a first time watch for you for this discussion, or had you seen it prior?
No, I have the wide release on DVD. Kind of bummed I missed out on the SRS Blu-ray because that cover art is pretty sweet. I watched it maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, but I think this is the second time I've watched it. I watched the movie last night, and then this morning I watched the commentary with Poloni and Kirkendall. Just kind of get a little bit more. You went hard with it. Which one of my favorite things about these kind of movies is since they're right at that sweet spot of an hour and 10. You can basically roll it back to back with the commentary, and you're still only hitting about 2 hours worth of viewing time.
Yeah, you watch both those couple reviews and still come in underneath the runtime of the Alex Leba movie. So that's
and then some.
Yeah, as much as we love that thing, that's
yeah, it was
commitment.
It was fun. The first time I watched it, I didn't know anything about Will Colazo. I just went for it because it was a Polonium movie and it had Kirkendall as the killer. So I mean, it was. First viewing, enjoyed it. It's fun. It's definitely a throwback to those 80s slasher movies, and I want to say I probably enjoyed it more this second time around. I would have liked. I'm a sucker for commentary, so I wouldn't have minded having a Colazo commentary track on there as well. But it was, I mean, going off first impressions, I really enjoyed it, and second viewing, I think just got a little bit better.
Nice, yeah, I can see that. I feel like this has good replay value for sure. Forrest, you were a producer on this film. For some reason, I thought you was a PA on it.
Well, that was I was a PA on another summer camp slasher, Victim No More,
which you can find a pretty fun discussion we did.
Yep.
Right here on the channel. It was one of our first things that we did for Schlockaholics. What was your first impression when you finally saw the finished product of this film?
What was my first impression when I saw the final product? I mean, there were moments. I mean, I'll admit there were moments where I felt like there was some I mean, I didn't write the script, but I'm watching and like there was some missed opportunities for some like good gags or good kills. But this was my first time producing. It was my first time producing a feature film, so kind of expected. So I don't expect it to be so at the same time, you can't expect it to be perfect. But overall, I think I'm glad it came together. I'm glad the whole thing came together and was able to to be seen by anybody. It's a fun. It's like a fun. It's definitely a fun movie that you can get together with your friend. Get all your friends and drinking buddies. Smoke a bowl and have a few drinks while watching it. It's a fun way to a fun way to spend your. It's definitely like a fun hour and 10 minutes to spend a Friday or Saturday night with your drinking your smoking buddies.
Oh, for sure, definite solid beer and
nice
popcorn
camp.
shit.
and I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it's very silly and campy, but that's Polonia, but that's Mark Polonia for you, and like Mark Polonia knows his niche.
Yeah, and at this point, you know what you're getting into with that guy.
Which I can't believe. He's actually wearing the superior cover art as his shirt right there.
Yep, and I got the Blu-ray too.
If this was a theatrical film, he'd probably be seeing it somewhere in New York in the next 24 hours.
Although there actually was a theatrical premiere here. There actually was a theatrical premiere on Long Island.
Oh, of course, and you were probably at it, right?
Both of us were. It was pretty cool. It was pretty weird. It was pretty cool to see see a movie that we made with our names on it, playing next door to Shang-Chi and Jungle Cruise.
I would take this movie over either of those any day.
Actually, it wasn't Shang-Chi. It wasn't Shang-Chi. It was playing next door to Black Widow and Jungle Cruise.
Either way, yeah, miss me.
No better.
So what about you, Matt? I mean, you were in the film, obviously, but being in a film and seeing the final product, like the finished cut of it, is very different things. What was your reaction or general first impression when you saw this boy for the first time?
I was there. Yeah, it was great. I guess that whole experience of seeing it, like the complete thing and the premiere we had shortly, like right around when it released on Blu-ray, it was like a great reward to just like
Absolutely.
see. It felt like a simple, like very DIY project made with Polonia and Collazo. It felt very bare bones, like on the set, but like they knew what they were shooting, and to see it all, like see all that footage cut into the narrative in the final film was very, very cool. And just it turned into what you see, a very fun, campy, like B-C movie.
Were you proud of your performance in it? Because you should be.
Well, I'll give a vague answer. I kind of with that role and the type of roles I've done, like in the same time frame, they're all very similar. I'm always kind of like the J. They're like, "Hey, dude!" Like, "Whoa," and it's a lot of fun. So I did the job. I did what I was supposed to there. If I'm being honest, I wanted to improv and get a little more. I use the word nuclear a lot. Get a little more nuclear, crazy with the dialogue and the banter with some of the campy characters. But yeah, it was cool to see, and it worked out better than I was expecting while filming it. Like to see like what was used and how it was used. So yeah, it was cool. Very cool to see.
I can imagine, man. Yeah, that was definitely one of our notes because I did watch this with my lady, and we enjoyed it quite a bit. But she actually said it before I did. I'm not used to watching. My previous lady was not into this kind of stuff, so watching it with my current lady, who is a different experience, and she was actually paying attention. And at a certain point, I think it is one of those camper scenes. We both kind of agreed that, like, oh shit, these like camper bros, as we called you and Kyle and the other dude, were like a highlight of the movie. It felt like your dialogue came across a little bit more natural. And we had a whole conversation about that. Like maybe if they shot some of these, yeah, everybody, like all three
for
of you
all
dudes.
of ours, the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear because I felt like during the takes and rehearsing, I felt very like not confident in like I felt like I'm no writer, but I felt like me just naturally saying what we're supposed to say around the campfire felt a little more easy to do. But they were like, no, just do the lines. And but a lot of other things I've done were improv, so
I feel like letting you guys go with. I feel like letting you guys run with some natural improv would have improved the movie a little bit. Because you could tell you guys all had like a natural chemistry and flow to what you were saying compared to some of the other actors in the film. If I shot this thing, I'd have probably ran each of those like 5 or 6 times, at least, and let you guys just kind of spitball it into whatever it became. As long as it's loosely fitting with the script, we're good,
That's the one thing I wish we would have done more, but
yeah, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Your wolf shirt definitely makes up for any shortcomings that this movie could have. If you guys get a chance to watch this or pick up one of those shirts, definitely do it. It's majestic as fuck. This was definitely my first time watching this movie. Certainly not my first Polonia film, but it was my first modern Polonia film, I think. All the shit that I've watched of that dude and his brother is all stuff from like the early to late 90s, kind of like the classic era of Polonia. So this was my first foray into current Polonia stuff. Well, I lie. I've watched the Apes movies. And I liked it, for the most part. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5, which, I don't normally rate movies, but for my own sort of satisfaction of like knowing where it stands with me on a perfect B movie scale, that's kind of worth that. And it's very rare that I ever give something a 5 out of 5, for my personal ratings. It's just, I think that the movie, is a lot of fun. It could have used some more creative kills, but the kills were executed well. And outside of one glaringly obvious CGI head chop.
Oh, whose head might that be?
We really did get, some classic Polonia style blood and guts in this thing. Which pleased me greatly, because the movie that they share some locations with, Camp Blood for Slaughter, is ass. It's ass on top of layers of ass. It's a whole Reuben sandwich of ass, and for me, Camp Murder made up for that immensely, because I just had watched a review for Camp Blood for Slaughter that Cody had sent me from like this Australian dude. It's pretty good. It's like When Bad Movies Attack is the name of the channel. Definitely worth checking out. There's things I like in First Slaughter, but this like takes those locations and redeems them for me, because that was my whole thing in First Slaughter, was like, damn, they had like these cool locations and they just sort of waste it, but Camp Murder like does it proper, just old school straightforward slasher action. Really liked the look of the killer in it, with the sort of rudimentary homemade Slipknot style mask, as Matt had pointed out. It looks like something a crazy person would make in their basement, in a scene very reminiscent to the opening of Nightmare on Elm Street. And I liked how his outfit was kind of like a hillbilly Leslie Vernon thing that he had going on there. The main thing that took me back a bit about the outfit for the killer, Tommy, in this film, was that they gave him the wig, which I feel like old Jeff Kirkendale had like some pretty fun. I'm sure his hair is luxurious normally, but for this it was kind of teased and a little disheveled looking. I mean, it would have looked like gross and weird poking out the back of the mask, but instead he's wearing like a wig the whole time, which did bum me out a little bit. But I get where they're going with it. It's something different, It
was pretty cool to see in person.
Oh, I bet, man. And, he carried himself well in it as well.
Yeah, he's very tall and intimidating, and I never met him before. And then when we did those scenes near that pond or lake or whatever, felt very atmospheric with him there and at that location.
There is some discrepancies. I mean, how do you classify a pond versus a lake? I was pondering that myself at like midnight last night. Like, is that a lake or is it a pond?
I don't know. It was like in a mountain or something. I know it's property they've used like many times, but it was just like a small body of water.
That seems accurate.
I was just saying that part of Pennsylvania. I think in that part of Pennsylvania, it'd be a pond.
Yeah,
that feels right. Yeah, that feels right. It's like something you'd hike up your fucking, overalls in, or coveralls or whatever, and catch some frogs,
I wouldn't swim in there.
Oh, really? Was it pretty fucking gnarly or what?
Yeah, they were like, I think that was considered a stunt what they were doing, like jumping in and out. Yeah, that was some branchy water, if that's a term.
Oh, a lot of snagglers in there, huh? Not the place to cast a line to, sounds like. But yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I mean, it's, there's certainly, it's not the best slasher you'll ever see, but none of these low budget ones are going to be that, and you don't go into them expecting that. If you can get some cool characters with a decent plot line, some homages to other classic slashers, which this one has in spades, and some funny dialogue moments, you're pretty much in the red or whatever. You're it's paying for itself. So, you know, while I maybe only gave this a 3 out of 5 on my personal scale, it's one I definitely will be hopefully purchasing in the near future and adding to the collection, because I did enjoy it enough that I would like to, you know, watch it multiple times in the future.
Well, you're nicer than the IMDb ratings.
Right?
Would they give it like a
YouTube,
1?
Or the YouTube ratings.
I remember a YouTube comment I read recently said that, or it might have been IMDb rating, but it said that the acting was an insult to high school thespians.
There's a couple of people in this movie that are guilty of that. We'll get to them. But I don't know, man. I think a lot of the bad ratings when it comes to stuff like that also come from people that are all trying to be like fucking funny about it or whatever. They don't know how to just like sit back and switch the brain off and enjoy B movies. And it's a skill that a lot more of them should develop, because I feel like the fucking whole angry video game nerd style like rage review shit is kind of old hat at this point. I mean, it's you got to kind of meet these guys in the middle when you're watching a movie like this, and suspend some disbelief and let go of some of your standards a little bit when it comes to the higher end horror and all that junk. What's that, Cody?
I also think a lot of these people that do those reviews, like to them, low budget horror is like, $2 or $3 million.
Yes, exactly.
So they're basing
they're comparing it to Blumhouse.
Correct.
Yep. Indie horror.
Yeah.
No, just because they put it in that tab on the streaming service that you prefer doesn't make it a low budget indie movie. Like, this is true indie shit. It's micro budget slasher shit shot with with
by the fans for the fans.
Exactly. So
that's my favorite part about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the appeal of movies like these is not that they are some shitty Blumhouse movie that feels overly polished. They're going to charge you fucking $13 and you're going to buy like a $6 bucket of fucking popcorn that's not even that good and watch it. It's like, this is the type of shit you watch at home and enjoy, and it inspires you to get out there and maybe do something of your own.
Hell yeah.
So if you're coming into movies like this with the intent to trash them, I think you're just kind of making a dork out of yourself. Because they sort of trash themselves, There's no anything that's this low budget is going to be self-aware that it's low budget to a certain extent,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this kind of audience kind of knows that.
Exactly. It's like going into something. I mean, on a more mainstream scale, you could say it's like going into like if you reviewed a scary movie entry in that franchise and you're like, well, it's a little goofy for my taste, and it's like, that's some fucking fascinating observations there, bro. What other things are you going to reveal for us over the course of this overly animated review that you're doing?
They're like, this movie's ripping off The Ring.
No, I didn't notice when the girl crawled out of the fucking TV. Come on. So you got to kind of grade on a curb with this stuff. And honestly, 3 stars out of 5 is pretty high praise for most, fucking micro budget slasher movies. I mean, it's
pretty
not
generous.
exactly, it's not exactly reinventing the wheel, but it's not trying to,
yeah, exactly.
So Cody, you want to kind of break down the plot for this real quick? We were waiting for you a little bit. I got to go send a couple of these fucking cards back to the seat, but I'll be right back.
All right. Hey, that is a pretty sweet axe grinder mask on your little picture there. Thanks for hopping on, bud. Summary I got off IMDb. Tommy Heller has been locked in a mental institution for the past 25 years after committing the Camp Massacre. Careless orderly, played by Mark Polonia, lets him escape from the care of Doris J. Lawton, right? He returns to the camp to continue his murder spree. Like, obviously, it's not, you're not up with original idea or anything like that. So what you can do with an established idea, and we're not gonna have any issues with that. So what I'd kind of like, sure Mo will get us back on. We'll start with you, Matt. If you could kind of just give us like how you came to be in this movie.
This movie specifically, well, I've known Will for a while. The first movie I ever did, Theater of Horror, we shot in 2015. I met Will on that just by chance. He needed an actor, and I wanted to give it a shot, so he did that. And that's where I met Victor, who plays my other stoner buddy. And over the summer of 2020, we were just talking during the lockdown stuff about, what he would be working on or how, given all the COVID restrictions. So sometime a couple of weeks before the shoot, he said, "I'm working with Mark Polonia. I have a role for you and Victor. It's like you're like Cheech and Chong, Jay and Silent Bob. You're the stoners in the movie, and you just kind of being escalated versions of yourselves in that way." So we just did that. We drove from where I am in New Jersey. Me and Victor drove. It was 5 hours to where we shot it, where Mark Polonia is from, and we just shot it over 3 days. And it happened, and met some other great actors. I didn't know a lot of the other guys beforehand, but got to work with them. Still worked with them afterwards on other projects, and kind of all spiraled from there. And it all was pretty much just a phone call.
That's rad,
from my pal Will.
And a sweet bonus road trip. I mean, I imagine driving out there was exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for hopping on, buddy.
We lose Forrest. Happy hour over. Does phone die?
He got kicked out.
Yeah, maybe let's go order another round.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Kyle? So basically, I don't know, the plot of the movie is pretty fucking, standard, I guess. Like, dude was, committed these camp murders, and then went to like a mental institution for 25 years. We get a very Halloween-esque like opening with him in the in the fucking hospital, and the doctor's like trying to prove that the 25 years he's been keeping him locked up there hasn't been, just useless or whatever. But it turns out that all Tommy's thinking about is those camp murders and getting back out there and slicing and dicing some fools in the woods again. Because why wouldn't you? It seemed like he did a pretty good job the first time. Why not follow it up with another strong outing of masked camper slashers action? We get some really broke. Yeah, don't fix it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with these things. We don't need a double twist at the end where it's like 3 other people that were actually the killer. We've all seen that kind of shit, and it just, I don't know. It's a little overcomplicated for me, especially when I'm watching the shit at like, 1 or 2 in the morning. And so basically, he ends up escaping, stabbing old fucking Mark Polonia with a pen, and taking off out into the wilderness to, slice and dice some campers again. I'm very, one of the things that struck me from the opening is how fatherly old Mark Polonia looks these days. My entire image of Mark Polonia comes from, 90s shit, where he's like a kid with a rat stash and a Dorothy Hamill haircut, So to see him like look like our dads, nowadays is pretty cool. But then, it's immediately tempered by the fact that he's talking about feeding him a horse cock sandwich and things like that. It gets evil real quick.
With a bar of soap and a sock.
Yeah, I'm going to come in your room after we're done here. I'm going to beat the shit out of you with a bar of soap. I was like, I don't know, man. I've never seen Mark talk like that. It's a little bit like fucking watching Santa Claus, like a mall Santa, just punch a kid in the face. It was shocking to say the least. But a cool opener, and I'm glad that I feel like unless he just straight up stars in the movie, he's never really put himself in his movies to an exaggerated extent. You know what I mean? He's not like popping up every few minutes, so there's not some reference to his other stuff all the time. It's just Mark is in there as like the orderly in the hospital at the beginning of it. And then it sort of moves into the bulk of the rest of the film pretty quickly after that. I think he's only in like the first 5-10 minutes of the movie.
I think a lot with him, he'll usually get a cameo in there, and then maybe if someone didn't show up to work that day, he kind of just throws on that part just to keep things moving.
Yeah, you're more likely if he's not the lead in the film like they would do back in the day to just hear his voice. Or like you could tell it's like him behind one of the computer dude suits in the 8 movies or something, which is the way to do it. You don't need to be in your own movie every fucking, few minutes or whatever. We get it. You made it. You're the guy. Mark has always been good about that. The Polonias in general have always been pretty good about that, I feel like. we get Dr. Loomis, who is very intentionally supposed to be the Dr. Loomis character of the movie. At the end of the day, this is really just taking, Nightmare or Friday the 13th and Halloween, and then throwing in just a little, just a pinch, of like some Texas Chainsaw vibes. But mostly it's those two franchises sort of mixed together, which is what most people think of when they think of masked slasher movies. So that's probably the smart route to have taken with this thing, And they've done similar shit in like Axe Grinder, Camp Blood. It's all supposed to be kind of like referential to that sort of stuff, and I'm good with that. I really like the pen kill, not because it's executed particularly well. I mean, we don't really even see it, but I'm a big fan of people getting stabbed with pens, or those things that they would have on the office desks to put like receipts on and shit. I've just always been a fan of that, like unconventional weapons used to stab people in the face. So, pen
Tommy's
kill
a resourceful guy.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was one of those good Bic like gel glide pens, so it was a solid pen that he used for it too. But yeah, that's pretty much the opening scene is, them trying to get him to write down what's on his brain, and it turns out what's on his brain is camp murder, so he writes that shit. There's some excessive heavy breathing in those opening scenes, really throughout the movie. I've never quite understood that in slasher films, and it's definitely not something this movie is guilty of, because it's something that exists in slashers as a whole, But are we really supposed to believe this asthmatic fool is going to like catch up to these people running around out in the woods? I don't know. I've never understood the heavy breathing thing. It makes sense in the context
Suspense.
of something, I suppose.
You tell me.
I think he just needs his albuterol fucking inhaler or whatever. I mean, it makes sense in the context of something like Black Christmas, where the heavy breathing is on like a creepy ass phone call. But I feel like after Leslie Vernon, I have a hard time buying that all these guys aren't absolute monsters when it comes to cardio. So to believe that the dude would be out there like breathing heavy is a stretch for me. But I get it, it adds to the ambiance or whatever. Part of the thing that really struck me about the opening of the film, though, was the opening theme song. And the soundtrack as a whole is pretty fucking decent. But the opening theme, like, really did a good job of reminding you of, like, Halloween, or reminding you of Friday the 13th without being a straight-up rip of either of them, which I found particularly impressive. It's real easy when you're doing those homage sort of style theme musics to tiptoe into the realm of just straight-up, like, cover songs almost. But this didn't do that. I'm not sure if the soundtrack was purpose made for this, or it's something that they had that just worked, but it definitely worked. So I don't know. Any thoughts on those opening scenes? I got a couple more, but I'll let you guys have the floor for a minute.
I liked it. It got the story across. It gave him his escape. I liked him kind of ambling down the hospital hall to make his little getaway.
Yeah, and it does a good job of setting the entire thing up, like, right away, so that you don't have to spend any fucking time, like, doing exposition later on to explain the motivations of this dude or anything like that. It's like, within the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, the entire storyline is established. You get a banging theme song, and then you're into the shit. And that's how these low-budget slashers should work. I don't need 3 layers of, like, storyline going on to make it just overly complicated. Dude is sitting around in a mental institution, really wants to fucking stab people with a pen, so he just goes ahead and does it, and then gets the fuck out of there to stab some other people with, well, mostly a machete. Yeah, I mean, what more do you need? What about you guys down there on the bottom row? You have any thoughts about this opening sequence? You think it played particularly well? Any notes?
Yeah, I think it did everything it needed to, and we had the experience of seeing it in a theater, and I think it definitely like set the tone for the audience. I think there were a couple like ohs, so that enhanced it.
What about you, Forrest? You got any input on this? He's
I don't think he can hear us.
Fucking hockey game right there. You got any,
hear us?
got any input for us? I think he forgot to put his earbuds in.
Say what? No,
Did you hear us?
My phone died, so I had to.
What are you on
plug
your
it in.
Apple Watch?
Huh?
What are you on your Apple Watch?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm on my phone right now.
Okay, so it's back on.
You got any thoughts on
right
the opening
Thought he was
sequence?
video chatting on like a watch.
You got any thoughts on the opening sequence of Camp Murder up to the opening credits? You know, the whole intro of Tommy and the situation. Any thoughts or notes on there?
I was pretty happy. I mean, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. I mean, perfect way to start a movie. What better way to start a movie than with a nice kill, with a good kit, with a nice old kill.
I told them, Forrest, that it was a cool experience to see it in the theater because we got like all the reactions from the first kill.
Yeah, and also it was kind of cool to see Mark on screen too.
He's got those dad vibes, like that Limp Bizkit song, dude. He needs to fucking make like a whole promo reel of old Mark Polonio with the dad vibes thing going on. I might do that in the future. And then, you know, from there we're pretty much introduced to these wrestler characters or whatever.
Roxy Rumble.
Yeah, and she's pretty great by and large through the movie. But I think before that, what we really get is the scene where Tommy acquires the outfit, where like there's the whole classic, you know, dude dressing up as the folklore slasher killer to scare his girlfriend or whatever out in the woods. I do feel like the dude pussed out a little bit and didn't take the joke as far as he did. Like he pretty much just comes up and is like, boo, and she's like, ugh, and then he's like, oh no, it's me. Like I would have fucking chased her with the machete or something for like a good 50 yards, like really made her piss her pants. Maybe I'm just mean though. That is also possible. I have been known to torment my girlfriends with stuff like that in the past and the present. Kind of got in trouble for that the other night. I mean, maybe when your girl hears something in the house at night, as funny as it is to say, maybe it's one of those Asian ladies living in your crawl space. It's probably not the thing to say in the moment, you know. So lesson learned. It might be. But it sure was funny, you know. Yeah, a little safe fear never hurt anybody, I don't think. But yeah, I feel like that joke could have been taken farther. Either way, we get a decent little head crush there. It's always a classic sort of Jason style kill, the fucking head squeeze. I feel like they could have went a little further on the gore factor, but I feel like they were saving a lot of that for a couple of the later kills that amped it up a little bit. Right. You know, you can't exactly have the dude's brains flying out of his fucking nose in the first 15 minutes of the movie, or it sets like an impossible bar for all of the other sort of filler kills throughout the thing. Like I said before, I really like the outfit. I think the wig was kind of, I feel like Jeff's hair sticking out the sides of the mask would have looked more natural and normal, but like weird in its own unhinged kind of a way. Not to knock your luscious locks there, Jeff, but you know, you had them particularly greased and like teased for this thing, and it just felt like a shame for them to have it all hidden underneath the fucking wig. But the wig was different, you know, and especially when you look at like the cover art that Forrest has got on his shirt there, it adds a different vibe to it that, you know, maybe the only other thing I could compare it to is like Dude Bro Party Massacre, where they've got the sort of, you're not sure if it's a woman or a man killer at first or whatever. With this, we obviously knew it was a man, so there was no mystery involved. But yeah, I really like the outfit. Yeah, I think after that is where we get Dr. Lewis introducing the Wyatt character, which is like the bounty hunter of the film. He's basically the Creighton Duke or whatever of this thing that has been hired to go out there and hunt down the Jason character, which in this case is Tommy, which I feel is maybe also a reference to Friday the 13th, eh?
Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are your guys' thoughts on the Dr. Lewis character or Wyatt? We'll go with you first, Cody.
I thought he was fine. They mentioned what's funny is they mentioned in the commentary that he looked a little too young to be retiring after 25 years of doing this. But I thought he was fine, just kind of the fed up guy that dedicated his whole life to Tommy and never got anything out of him. And then the Wyatt guy is just your generic, alpha male that ain't afraid of nobody. And as long as you're paying me, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But I don't work for you; I work for myself, kind of guy.
Dude was running a chain wallet the whole time, so I mean,
which he's been. If you've seen Polonia, I mean, dude's been in tons of stuff.
I love that Mark is so innocent that his idea of a tough guy is a dude with studded bracelets and a chain wallet. That's so fucking old school, like 90s. I just love it. I don't know if that was his choice or if that dude that played Wyatt just showed up looking like that.
I think it was just him.
You think so?
Yeah,
and that's cool. But
even pretty authentic.
Even looking the way that he looked with his tattoos and everything, it's like he's a biker dad. It's hard for me to take. I mean, that guy was probably way tougher than the dialogue made him seem. But at the same time, dudes like that are big teddy bears. I don't know how it was being on set with that dude, but I feel like he was probably a pretty fun guy. I just got that idea from him from his performance in the movie.
I think his name was Ken. I don't remember. Right. I only saw him. Did like one scene, and we were all just there.
He was Steve. Ken was the ranger guy.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry, it's been a while.
I thought he did okay. If we're being honest, the Dr. Lewis Wyatt dialogue moment in the movie was the one that really had us thinking, like, they probably should have ran some of these scenes a few more times just to make it a little more natural or whatever. It was a little stilted, but I mean, it's those dudes I feel like are also older than everybody on the cast, so it's maybe not in their wheelhouse to know the kind of shit that you guys are trying to do out there for this. And that does happen with older actors in micro budget movies throughout the ages. We're all in that age range where we know exactly what this is and what it's supposed to be. And then, the guys that are slightly older than us, like a Polonia, they've been making this stuff for that long, so they know what it is. Dudes like a Dr. Lewis or a Wyatt, seem like older dudes that are trying their hand at this stuff. Maybe I don't know those guys' background when it comes to this shit, but I feel like if they'd let them run the scenes a few more times, it would have came across more natural, like some of the stuff that was done with you guys later in the movie did. And this is not even coming just from me. My girlfriend, like I said, pointed out some of this stuff before I even mentioned it, where it's like, I actually fully agree with you. They should have, ad-libbed more of this and let it come across as more natural, because especially with those dudes, it's a bit glaring. But it sets up the whole premise of the movie pretty well, which is that this Dr. Lewis character is like trying to sort of keep this under wraps. Also, he's real fed up with dealing with this Tommy shit and just kind of wants it to be over with. So their main concern is covering up Polonia's death at the facility and getting out there and either recapturing or killing Tommy before it becomes an issue. And I'll admit, the showdown between Wyatt and Tommy later in the movie is fucking hilarious. So it sets up one of my favorite scenes in the film. And then I think after that is when we're officially introduced to all of you guys, correct? Like,
yep, we're setting up the tent.
Yep.
Yeah, Roxy and what's her husband's name in it? I forget. But they're kind of the first one. Was it Clark? I don't know.
I'll find it for you. Hang on.
It's in my notes somewhere, but I don't know where.
Tim was Chuck.
Chuck, there we go. Yeah. They're the first ones we're introduced to, and they introduced the idea of all you guys, I guess, being wrestlers. Were all of you supposed to be wrestlers, or is it?
No, I think we were like fans, or I don't know. I don't remember. Do you know?
Although Jamie Morgan herself is a professional wrestler.
Right, because there's those legit like photos that she's looking through in the car. And then, obviously she had like a retooled athletic kit that like a lady might wear to jog that they made look like some wrestling shit in this. So yeah, that whole gimmick was there. But yeah, I was very unclear whether or not everybody was supposed to be these indie wrestlers that were all meeting up for a camp out, or...
From what I gathered on the pages, there wasn't much depth to the relationships, but I think we were just like friends just camping, and I don't know if somebody knew Roxy or we were fans or something, but I remember we were like, we love Roxy, and we were like excited for her to come, and we were like praising her as she came, but we didn't like Chuck, so like we're familiar with like the storyline of them, but like I don't know. As far as I know, we were just camping and she was there.
And you, well, I think it's safe to say you were, in the very least, fans of,
yeah, definitely.
Her as a wrestler.
Yeah, I think they were fans, and they were all pissed off because Chuck was her manager and he was destroying her career.
Yeah, so we're familiar with that, but like my
what's
reaction
up, Michael?
was like I never saw her.
Thanks for coming and christening the stream. Michael is our good luck charm on this channel, so we know this is going to go good now that he's in here. Not that I had any doubts,
We're doing it.
But yeah, I felt like the wrestling storyline did get dropped a little bit. I also really just wanted to see like the Doomsday device put on somebody out here, maybe a couple of fucking, the several of the Dudleys fucking tag team. That would have been cool to see Tommy go through a table. That's all I'm saying. So the wrestling thing could have been leaned into a little more. And imagine how badass that would be if like a Jason Voorhees had to go against a whole camp of like rough and tumble indie wrestlers,
That
they're
would be cool. I would have loved to wrestle.
Oh man, and that's what I'm saying. Like all you guys looked like you could conceivably be like indie wrestlers. You kind of got like a Billy Kidman, Spike Dudley thing going on.
Well, if you want to know a little piece of trivia from that, Pamela Such, who plays Tina, the cute blonde. Well, I guess they both are, but she is. I think she does martial arts or something, but she's a black belt in some sort of karate, and she used that for her fight/kill scene.
Dude, I feel so bad because I have it written down as Bimbo Fu.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
She hits him with like a good combo and then just kicks him in the nuts. It's so fucking good.
So I think on the day that was like her idea. She was like, I could do this. I have a black belt in. Sorry, Pam. I don't remember the exact thing she told me, but yeah, she has some sort of degree of wrestling and fighting, so she knew what she was doing. So she kind of did her own stunt there and made that scene what it was.
Yeah, it was convincing and sufficiently random. Like it elicited definitely an audible cheer from me as we were watching it. Like, fuck yeah, And
it was cool.
Listen, full disclosure, I'm not calling you a bimbo. The character was clearly meant to be kind of bimbo-ish, So when I was taking my notes, I was like, oh shit, she just whipped out some Bimbo Fu on that dude.
It's a great word.
And it was effective for a minute,
Exactly. Yeah, she kicked ass. Wish we all did.
Yeah, I feel like there was some missed opportunities for some tag team moves to be executed on old Tommy there. It would have been real cool to, or what's it, the Doomsday Machine, the Road Warriors one where they put him up on the shoulders and the other guy just gives him that brutal fucking clothesline off the shoulders. Or what's the Dudley one called? Isn't 3D. It just called 3D? Yeah. You just fucking put that sumbitch through a flaming table or something like that. Like, if we ever did a big budget remake of this, I'm putting in all the wrestling stuff. It's going in there.
Or if a sequel ever happens, we definitely have some ideas.
For sure, yeah. I've got a long history of watching ECW, so I could contribute quite a bit to that kind of stuff. But we're introduced to all those guys. I think that opening scene with the tent, which is the same tent from what is it, First Slaughter or one of those
Camp Blood one of the Camp Blood movies.
Because it's still like unexplainably splattered with blood in Camp Murder, and I think broken because it never looks like it's set up properly in this movie.
It's probably been through a lot of kills.
Yeah, just add some unintentional comedy to it, and you could tell it was used for something else. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, well, this is a Polonia movie, so that tent has probably been in more movies than some of these people, But yeah, I mean, I love that whole scene. Kyle throws him the beer. And you guys are all just like, hey, what's up? Like it feels so natural. That's almost where the movie should have started. And
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seemed like it was, man.
And that's how like most of the shoot was. Like me and Victor just showed up, and I knew Kyle, I knew Will, and everyone else. We just kind of all just hung out as if we were, you know.
You can sense the chemistry with that group of people as compared to some of the other interactions in the film. You guys, it's right there in my notes. Where's it at?
Well, if you want the extended cut of that, you should watch Kyle Rappaport's making of Camp Murder on YouTube. He like vlogged it, and there's a lot of fun stuff in there. I honestly go back and watch that just to like from my own memory. I'm like, that was a good time.
I don't know if it'll focus in, but it says Kyle and his camper bros are the best actors by far in the movie, next to the reporter. So that's what I got on that. Feel free to hit them with any questions. I got to step away real quick once again, but this is rolling along pretty good, man.
Mo and I have this dynamic where he talks for 90%, and then I just wait for him to have to go to the bathroom, and then it's my time to shine.
It happens. Shine away.
I'll go ahead and hit you, Forrest, this time. If you want to give us some little conversations about being on the set and just how things like that. I don't know how long you were there for, or just some behind the scenes stuff you want to kind of interject.
I mean, basically, I was in charge of raising. I mean, all I really did. I mean, I unfortunately was not on set, so I missed out on a lot of the fun stuff. But I was basically raising money and creating hype for the project. So, like going around like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, saying, "Hey, we made this."
I mean,
we made this little low budget slasher flick. Come check it out.
Yeah, I mean these movies live and die on that, and that's how you got to get the word out there. You got to, especially, I mean, luckily with social media. I mean that's free advertising, and it's very much a thing where you have to help each other out to survive. I mean that's a huge thing in itself, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man.
Because we don't have the marketing budget of like a major studio, so
right.
We just
it's all word of mouth, and telling your buddies and they tell their buddies and all that, and then merchandising stuff. I mean, you got a sweet shirt there. Like, who would want to see a movie with that shirt on it, or with that character on it?
Oh yeah, that too. Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
That's right.
And it's how people find out about it.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind one of those shirts. I'm sure they're long gone, but if they ever decide to print up like a nice, full size
SRS still has them.
Yeah, you can go to SRS's website and get them.
It's like $200 for the poster, or what?
Jesus.
I don't know. I don't think they have the.
Some of their back end stuff is a little pricey sometimes.
I think the poster might only been during the Blu-ray run, but I know the shirt's still on there. I looked today.
Right on. Okay, I'll fuck with the shirt. One thing we kind of skipped over is the greasy sort of sex interrogation the reporter runs on old Dr. Lewis. Are those chest tattoos real? That's what I need to know. Does he really have like a bunch of scary, like mine shaft fucking old sailor tattoos like all over his body? Or
they mentioned in the commentary that she was shocked that he had all those tattoos on. So
what the fuck was that guy up to, dude? Those aren't even like normal tattoos. They look like prison tattoos, or like he was like a circus geek that would chew on glass or something. Like, what the fuck is going on with those tattoos? It's like a bunch of birds and nautical stuff, I think. Is he a sailor?
Any guy that's been in charge of Tommy for 25 years, I guess, has to have a little dark side to him.
I suppose so. I thought they were fake because, no offense, man. I mean, I'm sure he knows that. That's why he covers it up with like normal people clothes. But they're pretty fucking terrible looking tattoos. But I mean, that's I'm sure they mean something to him. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it again. I remember seeing it though and like stopping it for a minute and being like, those are like old tattoos, you
didn't get it,
or they did a really good job of painting on some old looking tattoos on the dude.
I don't think there was a budget for that.
Yeah, man, I'd like to interview that guy just to find out what the story is with those. I mean, you get those with his time as like a merchant fucking seaman or something. I don't know how he's shucking lobster out there on the fucking Atlantic or something. I don't know what those guys do, but it was an interesting thing to spot, and I mean that with full respect. You know, that guy. The tattoos might look like shit, but they're probably like got more of a story to them. Most people's like random fucking Elvira tattoo they have or something. You know.
I thought we agreed you weren't going to mention my Elvira tattoo on a live stream again.
I'm sorry, Cody. As soon as I saw it right there above your butt cheeks, I couldn't fucking take my eyes off.
It's supposed to be a secret.
Best tramp stamp ever.
Well, let me tell you, I used to want to get tattoos, and I was planning on it, but I'm glad I didn't, because my first tattoo I wanted was going to be a Marilyn Manson thing right here. And that would not have aged well.
You dodged a bullet right there.
I just still ran it as long as it was like that OG Manson logo font.
I was gonna, personally, I was gonna get.
You'd be able to tell that it was from that time, you know.
Yeah, personally, there was a comic book cover that I always wanted to get a tattoo on my. There was the cover of this Batman comic that I always wanted to get tattooed on my back, but. I have like but due to dermatological issues, I can't get it or any tattoo.
Technology will catch up with you, Forrest. I'm confident of it.
But yeah, it's like it has like sensitive skin issues, so I can't get tattoos.
I fully believe someday we'll be able to step into a thing and do like a Grand Theft Auto character customization thing on ourselves, and it'll just be like, you know, and then you'll come out and fucking you'll look the way that you want. I've thought about tattoos a bunch, and there's lots of stuff that I would love to get. Like most of it's like simple stuff that wouldn't mean anything to anybody that looked at it unless they knew what it is, right? Like. I really would love to have like just on my kneecap or somewhere random the cover of the Descendants album Milo Goes to College, because it's just like this little doodle, looks like a kid did it, that you would never think means anything, you know, but then you listen to the album and it's a goddamn fucking masterclass in low budget punk rock. But do I want it on my body the rest of my life? I don't know. I think I'm in the Matt camp of like, let's all fucking run with that on a t-shirt instead. And then there was a certain point in life, like maybe in the last 5 years, where I really started thinking about the fact that like, I've made it this long without tattoos. Why get one now? I also kind of like the idea of them using like dental records to identify me if I ever just was like dead somewhere. Who knows? Maybe I'll get abducted by aliens. I'll get dropped on like a cow pasture and be indented into the ground. That'd be pretty cool. Like they have to use like, maybe they took my fingerprints. I don't know. I'm doing a decent job of getting rid of some of them myself.
I'm gonna somehow fit Camp Murder on my knuckles.
We'll figure it out.
MUDR.
It'd be funnier if some of the letters were squeezed together.
I was gonna get it in Chinese actually.
We didn't have the budget for more fingers, but we had the budget for smaller font. So it looks like we're on to the third page of my notes here, guys. At some point, I did write Dr. Lewis is a dork and his memoir will suck. Because I think it's in that scene where he's interviewing the guy at the bar, right? And it's like a survivor kid of the thing. And this dude is interviewing him and he's like, wait, what? You were there? Like, he's all surprised that this guy had anything to do with it. And you would think that if he was like researching this shit for 25 fucking years and he's like in the middle of writing a book about it, that he would be familiar with.
Would know about the one survivor.
You're writing a memoir. Is this your first day out fucking researching it or what? Like, it's never really explained. Like, he's just totally shocked that this guy had something to do with it while they're drinking their ginger ale or whatever it is. Definitely not beer in those mugs. I mean, nobody else noticed that. Like,
he never said that he researched it well. He just said that he's been researching it for 25 years.
But I mean, in 25 years, you haven't made it out to the town to interview the townsfolk. I mean,
one would hope.
How does that happen? You'd think that'd be one of the first things they would do. Like, how did this kid grow up? What were your memories? You know, like they do with like every school shooter or serial killer. You know.
Yeah, and obviously that guy would have been interviewed because, I mean, if he's telling random guy at a bar, oh yeah, I was there.
Right. That said, though, that dude, the whole sequence with that guy and him just reminiscing over the beers, and the dude telling him like the flashback sequence, like series of events, is one of my highlights of the movie. I think it's one of those moments that genuinely like built the lore well and made it seem like it lended some credence to this Tommy character basically being like a little kid kind of a character. You know, in my mind when I'm watching this and thinking about the ending with the mom and stuff, it's like Tommy is almost kind of like, this isn't, you know, adult Jason doing this. This is what would happen if baby Jason was the killer. You know, Ari Lehman Jason went on to be the killer.
First Jason.
Yeah, like a mix of him and a good band too. You should check them out. A good mix of him and like little kid Michael Myers from the first Halloween movie. That's what I get from Tommy in this. Which, if I was to give this film like a huge props for you know one main thing, it would be pretty successfully melding the Michael and Jason thing. Most of the time, it's just full on Jason, and they're sort of making reference to certain Michael Myers-esque stuff. But in Camp Murder, you know, with the way it was written and put together, they do a pretty good job of making it seem like a proper amalgamation of the two characters. Am I wrong, Cody? Or is that,
No, I would say so. I think that's, if you're picking two slasher movies that this movie is kind of meshing with, I would definitely say that. I mean, lean more towards on Jason, but you can definitely feel both of them in that movie. In this, movie.
the Michael influence is there for sure.
I see.
And then, you know, we're into that glorious bar scene with all of you guys.
Yeah, that was
and
fun.
An almost fight, and then Collazo, for some reason, feeling like he needs to announce that he's a cop. Right in the middle of it after watching a good 2/3 of it play out. He's also there playing pool with no one, it seems like.
Yeah, I think he was just like standing there.
He's just holding the cue, you know. What's up with that?
It's his baton.
You were there.
We were just standing there off to the side. They set that up. We walk in, and I don't know.
I love how he asks Kyle. He's like, "You got any drugs on you, boy?"
That was fun. I think we might have improvised that a little bit.
And let me just say, Kyle is immensely fun in this movie. The performance that comes across on the other end, it's like
the comedy kind of works.
Fun, over the top comedy, and then when he starts getting weaselly later in the movie, man, does it work? Like those looks that he would give, you know, or like my favorite is where he's going into the woods and he just looks back at Roxy. He's like,
kind of has that scowl on his face.
Let's go back here and plot and scheme. And but maybe canoodle a little bit. They didn't get to that. But...
Yeah, but he was also hung like a horse.
So. He was, yeah, and that guy's hung like a field mouse, as we all know. It just, Kyle was hard as fuck in this movie, dude, with his backward baseball cap. I was laughing the entire time, and not in a bad way, Kyle. It's just, I kind of know you now through other stuff. so seeing you in the movie with your backwards cap.
Actually, I pulled up a behind the scenes from that.
Glorious, yeah. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it's just so random. And I think that's also the scene where we established that old Chuck likes a bit of the stink face. You know, which an unfortunate tag to apply to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. More. You know, I've enjoyed a little bit of that myself, but not in that way. Not in that way that they're talking about, and certainly not in the sweaty fucking, you know, pup tent in the summertime kind of an environment. So it just seems like a bad place to have a lady's fucking posterior resting upon your dome, you know. But yeah, man, was that hot. Funny. It seemed like it was ball rot hot out there.
Do you notice in those scenes in the campfire and the bar scene, it was like a rec center in a college. It didn't really feel like a bar, but it was a cool set. But we're so sunburnt.
I don't think I noticed the sunburn.
If you look at us again, I have like a line on my head from the hat, and like we're just toasted.
Oh man, on that
because
rewatch,
the original,
I'll definitely be.
Yeah, the original. We were setting up the tent when we first got introduced. That whole sequence, and like when the guy comes and takes our drugs and stuff, that was like at like noon in like 95 degrees with no shade.
Yeah.
I think the ladies had like umbrellas to like stay cool. We were like, oh, we're fine, but then we were like red.
Should have been under that umbrella, bro.
I hid somewhere at some point.
Yeah, man, I definitely have some drug questions at some point here. And that was one of my favorite scenes as well, where the ranger takes your guys' drugs and he's like, shit, I'm good on drugs for like the next 25 years or something like that. Like, look at
here's a little tidbit. I don't know if this is allowed to be known information for whatever film right purposes, but one of those nugs of weed were real.
That's what I was just about to get to. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
I don't understand why real weed isn't used more in movies. And I understand the logistical part of it. Like, we can't have everybody fucked up on set, that kind of thing. CBD, that shit, man. Then they can smoke.
Or it's called getting into character.
That too, but I don't know if I can get into character smoking whatever fucking dryer lint that guy's got rolled up in the blunt. You know, like, can't we just put some CBD in there? Then we'll be relaxed and chill. We're not going to be fucked up. It's going to feel and taste like we're smoking actual weed. So it's just going to give you more of a natural outcome, I feel like, you know.
Yeah, I think we did that because I think the props were like just like the pill bottle or like some vague looking miscellaneous drugs. So I think me or Victor were like, we have like a real nug right here if you want to just whip that out. So we did.
Very cool. Was that the huge bag of weed that Kyle has? Is that where there's the real nug?
No, it was a very small. Actually, yeah, that was the real nug. That was the real weed.
It felt like there might have been something real in there.
The joints, I'm pretty sure those were fake.
See, and I always wonder, what do they use for the fake joints, right? Like,
I don't remember. I think it was just like literally prop weed. Like it just looked
that's
like...
what I mean. But there's like a word for whatever it is that they use, and I've heard it before. It's just it never retained in my brain. But CBD's the way. It's gonna have actual benefits to the people smoking it. Might even calm them down to read some of those lines, but it's not gonna make them fucked up.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, maybe that's why I wasn't having a good time with the dialogue. Maybe I was too fucked up.
Oh, you seem to be one of the better ones, in my opinion. Kyle says, yeah, I got sunburnt on set. My whole body got burns in the film. If you notice in the film, I'm all red in the second film.
He's very red. He's like a lobster in that fucking last
Honestly,
half.
Dude, I was dead sober when I watched this. I didn't notice. But it was because I was so shocked at Kyle's fucking performance in this thing. And I was like, he's going hard as fuck.
I got a funny sunburnt selfie for you. I can't really see the sunburn, but I'm red as hell in this picture.
That's a nice photo too. I like that.
That's awesome.
It's frame-worthy.
Yeah, I rewinded on my camera memories just to show you random ones while we're talking about it. It's bringing stuff back.
So from my notes here, we also have the tent setup is hilarious because I don't think it was ever fully assembled in the movie. I'm fairly certain it was broken. Unless I'm just imagining that. It was like splattered in blood and broken, so I feel like it got fucked up on the previous movie.
Yeah, in Kyle's vlog, there's like an extended scene of us. I don't even think it was a real scene. I think it was behind. It was like in between setting it up. We were like talking about like, what the fuck? It's actually broken. What do we do? And me and Victor were arguing about who's gonna fix it because we were trying to be the manliest man there, you know. But I was like, I can't even pop my hood. You think I'm going to put up a tent?
Yeah, Gorilla Tape, man. If you don't have one of those in your glove box, you're fucking failing. You know, everybody should have a roll of that Gorilla Tape in their fucking car. Yeah. It will save your life. I could have fixed that tent in 5 minutes. We would have had that thing up, but it would have robbed us of the unintentional comedy of that tent being broken the whole time. So
yeah,
I don't know if that
was like part of the joke.
Yeah, it was fun. It's got like blood splatter all up the front. It's just broken already. Nothing's even happened.
And it gave us something to do.
Yeah, exactly. You guys looked good setting it up like a proper group of bros. I love when Kyle tosses that beer to fucking, what was it, Dick or whatever his name is, the burly dude. Chuck. Just one of my favorite scenes in the movie is that whole where they show up at the campsite and you guys are working on putting it together. Another thing I did write down, other than the tent setup is hilarious, is they bought firewood. ... Why? That's the question I want to know. There's clearly a bindle of firewood, like wrapped with plastic, that was purchased by somebody at a store. And you guys are in the fucking woods.
Yeah, that was the guy. What was his name? Not Ken, the other guy.
Steve.
Yeah, it was his property. So it was part of like it was out there. It's like, acres and acres. So we were like on the property. So I guess that's just how you had some wood we could use. It was a real fire.
We sell bindles of firewood with that plastic band around the middle at my work, so maybe he's selling his own firewood. If he is, smart hustle, especially if you're doing like B movies on the side. You sell a lot of fucking firewood if you have the land to do it. It's very profitable. But I couldn't help but notice it. And it was like, well, they're in the woods. Why would they have purchased a bundle of firewood? That just seems insane.
Yeah, wow. Now that you think about that, there were enough trees there. That doesn't make sense now that I think about it.
If your production people bought firewood rather than just chopping a fucking...
Hey, if you got the budget, go ahead.
No, well, we don't. That's the point. So you can't go spend fucking $15 on firewood we can get for free. Yeah. And then you guys are on the.
They must have came in from the city,
even worse, Return to Splatter Farm. That's what, I don't know why I thought it was Camp Blood for Slaughter. That's the locations that are shared between the film.
Yeah, I think both those movies came out pretty soon or pretty close together, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Return to Splatter Farm. I got a beer mustache.
You're missing out, sir.
I'll get to
it. I got to see that too.
I got to get a physical copy.
I missed it when it was on. I think it was on Amazon, and then I tried to watch it. It wasn't on there anymore.
It might be on
Tubi. Yeah.
Okay. That's where we tend to exist now.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a good place for it. I've been fucking singing Tubi's praises for years. I love it.
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
That's great.
So, I mean, Cody, Forrest, you got anything on what we've covered up to this point? Because we're rapidly approaching the last 2 pages of my notes, which means we're basically in Finaleville right here.
I mean, because like I said, I don't know if you were here. Wait, I think you took a break. Well, okay, Kyle's saying it's on Tubi. For anybody who wants to just stream it.
This one is. We were talking about Return to Splatter Farm.
Yep. But yeah, Matt. Because Matt was there. I was just kind of just online raising funds and creating hype. But yeah, a lot of ground. Yeah, Matt you guys kind of all covered a lot of ground.
Well, I don't know, man. It's basically you're a viewer like us. You just put in money to the film, right? Like,
yeah, and the money got. And I know some people who are like, I met some people who might be listening to me like, you just put money you just bought your credit. I'm like, and I'll just say right now, a lot of film producers that's how it is. A lot of film producers are money people. They put the money to make sure the project is made.
Isn't that what executive producers are? If I'm not mistaken, they're the people that fund the movie and or secure funding for the movie.
Yeah.
So if you spin it into a career as an executive producer, you can conceivably like never even put in another dime into it. You've just built such a reputation for funding projects that pay off that you can get other investors to get in on it.
Exactly.
I think executive producers also sometimes secure locations, things like that. So in some way I can understand the whole like, oh, you bought your way into the fucking thing, but on the other hand, not for you specifically, I'm talking in general. But on the other hand, it's like without those people, movies like this don't exist. I mean, I feel like this was probably crowdfunded, yeah, as the vibe of like an Indiegogo movie. And that's fine, you know, but it's people got to understand that the film industry is not just the motherfuckers shooting the camera and the people they're pointing it at, you know.
Exactly.
It's a whole lot of other people that do other shit. If you went around acting like you were fucking Harvey Weinstein or something, I might clown on you and be like,
Don't do that.
Yeah, you're not exactly fucking, you know, bankrolling this shit like you.
Okay,
I might clown on
Harvey
you if you had
Weinstein
that
bought his Oscars. I'll put it that way.
Exactly. I might clown on you if you had that attitude, but you're very level-headed about it. There are other people we mutually know that I do clown on for stuff like that, because it's like, this motherfucker over here acting like he's Quentin Tarantino or some shit. Come on, man. You paid a bunch of people to give you shorts that you made into an anthology or something. You didn't exactly, you know, go out there and shoot the modern horror epic. Like, settle the fuck down. It all depends on the scale that you're putting into it. Matt down here isn't acting like he cameoed in fucking, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or something. Yeah. I haven't even seen that movie, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's a little bit of humbleness goes a long way for me when it comes to people like that. And you've never given me the idea, Forrest, when you say you produce behind a movie, you not only are giving money to it, but you're busting your ass to promote for it. If it wasn't,
he definitely
for you,
did the job.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Forrest, I'd have probably had no idea this existed until I started doing Schlockaholics with these guys, because it does feel like something you would have been in on too, Cody. You know, in a good way. I'm not usually giving money to this kind of stuff. I believe, well, now thanks to Brandon, I'm going to have Amityville, like IMDb credits and Amityville films and shit. But, you know, I had no designs on any of that stuff. And I've always contributed directly, like, here, I'll just PayPal you the money. Let's call it good at that, you know. And that's personal preference. I don't know. It's not that, I mean, if I really like the project, I might throw in for a producer credit. But I would be more likely to send a special note being like, just credit Schlockaholics. Like, I don't, you know. But that's, again, personal preference. And there are people out there that give the, you know, indie contributors a bad name because then they act like it's their movie or something. You know what I mean? And it's like, that bums me out too. It's not your movie, man. You just gave them $600 and shared a bunch of links on your Facebook page. I mean, it's, you don't own it. You're not entitled to anything beyond its release, you know. But that's a whole other ball of wax, you know.
I think that's I think it's definitely probably a bigger problem than even we realize, is that you get, I'm sure a lot of people that are, you know, in their mind, if I give X amount of money, you know, I should have direct input in everything going on. And
it's my movie now, you know, and it's like, get the fuck out of here, bro.
I mean, I know enough. No, that's not how that works. I mean, if I
paid for the craft service, a couple of t-shirt printings, and Sean C. Phillips to not show up. That's pretty much. Let's be real about it. You know?
Oh my god.
$5 or $10.
If you give 600,000, it's yours.
Yeah, there you go. So where are we at here? The bird watcher kills. Unfortunately, I do have to step away once again to let these fucking animals back in the house. But talk about the bird watcher kills. I have one note to put in on there, but this is sort of a transitionary point between, you know, what has taken place in the movie up to now, and then Kyle's romantic rendezvous and his plot scheming that's about to go on, which is fucking hilarious. So, you know, talk about them bird watcher kills. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I thought that one was fun. That's Natalie and Titus, I think, husband, wife, done a lot of Polonius stuff. It almost looked like they probably did that one separately, maybe when you guys weren't there, or at a separate time because no one else was in there.
Yeah.
But actually, I want to say
that was after us.
I think I just answered my own question. Like, it's on the commentary. I think Mark's son played Tommy in that scene because it was it was done after the facts. Now I'm it's all coming back, even though I watched it this morning. I like that one. It was fun. I mean, they're definitely two goofy bird watching a couple that end up, just wrong place, wrong time.
And you die.
Yeah, that's right.
That's usually what happens.
Were the bird watchers perk kills?
No.
Do you understand what I'm saying, though? That feels like a place where you would sneak in some.
Well, I think they added maybe to bump the kills, maybe, but that was.
It feels like a reshoot at best. Yeah, it does feel like something that didn't happen the weekend that these guys were out shooting the movie. If you feel me, there's nothing wrong with that.
It was what we were just talking about. Like they did it afterwards, and Polonia's son played Tommy, so it may have just been a pickup runtime scene, or maybe they wanted a couple more kills in it. But I mean, they've done a lot of movies with Polonia, so I don't think it was a perk kill.
Right, but see, I'm leery of that stuff now for obvious reasons. But is Polonia's son, if I'm reading it correctly, the dude who did the effects for the movie, right?
Yep.
That's super fucking cool to me that he's in there doing it,
Yeah, he's done his own movies, and they've co-directed a few movies together too.
Mm-hmm.
I think he needs to get a little bit crunchier and grosser with the gore, but that's also a personal preference thing. I mean, the gore that's in this movie is perfectly serviceable for what the movie is. Could it be meatier? Could it be a little more visceral? Could he have twisted that guy's head around when he, squeezed his skull at the beginning of the movie? Yeah, and it'd have cost almost nothing. But I mean, let him get there on his own. I'm not trying to force him to do the shit. And it's, maybe that's not what they were going for with this. It seemed more like an ensemble cast, classic slasher thing, that was more so throwing back to like the early Friday the 13th movies and stuff like that, more so than it was the ones where people's eyeballs are popping out of their fucking skulls and things like that. Oh yeah, hung like a horse is even in my notes. So that's kind of where we're at now, is the Kyle murder plot. I loved it so much. That scene where he walks away from the camp and then just turns and looks back at her and then walks into the woods made me laugh so fucking hard, dude. I rewound it like 3 or 4 times just to look at his face.
He was very subtle.
It is funny.
And then when they're out there having their rendezvous and talking about how bad they want to bang, but this guy's just in the way, and Kyle's like, let's fucking kill him. It was so good. Well, easily one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. And then the actual execution of the murder plot just going so horribly wrong was awesome as well.
It's so ridiculous, but in a good way.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, again, it would have probably been a little more impactful if the background was explained. They could have done a whole thing where, Kyle's character was like in-ring rivals with, her husband's character, but then behind the scenes, he's also trying to like bang his fucking wife, or is banging his wife, apparently. There could have been a little bit more done with that. Go ahead.
I can almost see him just being a very obsessive fan, the kind of just right place, right time, telling her what she wanted to hear to kind of move the relationship along. Because I mean, they didn't really. I forgot that Chuck was a wrestler until the end, because like nothing was ever said about it until like the end of the movie when he ready for the pain train or whatever it was.
Well, no, he mentions it a couple of times previously. And when they're on the road to like the campsite, she talks about how it's like, it's hard being on the fringes of the wrestling business or whatever. Like there is definitely allusions to it, which is why it is in my notes, is like, what the hell happened to the wrestling plot line? Because it only kind of comes back again like at the end, but it's just briefly mentioned throughout the whole thing. And you keep feeling like obviously that it's going to come into play in the plot at some point when Roxy finally goes like full wrestler mode. It's pretty neat, but I don't know. I just feel like I, as a wrestling fan, would have included it in more of the movie.
I mean, only her husband really got the brunt of it.
Pretty much, yeah. Which just means he got a lot of fucking like side boob to his face. There wasn't really much wrestling going on in it. There was some basic headlocks. I don't know. The Kyle thing just felt like it was a little less explained than it should have been. That said, the scenes were still fucking great. Watching Kyle, just flip the fuck out, especially after the murder plot is going wrong, and then him just getting gutted was awesome. Definitely a highlight of the movie.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good kill.
Who's muted?
Yeah.
I gotta call my kid. Just continue, Cody. Sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think we're leading up to about that point. Matt, if you want to kind of talk about your kill, how that was set up, how everything went into that.
It happened really quick. I mean, that was something that the whole sequence kind of came together in like the edit, sort of, because the practicalness of like it was the headless piece when the head comes off. That was like a silicone prop. So I was just like, it was me, and then cut, and then we put like the shirt on the headless prop, and they just filmed real quick, and then whatever the blood and stuff was CGI. So it was pretty quick. I have a behind the scenes clip of it. I think it's in Kyle's vlog as well, but like I just kind of hold it up, me shirtless, because it's on the dummy, and I'm just like, and it happens pretty quick. It happens shockingly quick in the movie. I was like, oh, because like
it's like just a quick lop,
I watched it with a friend, and he was at the premiere actually, and he must have looked down for his drink or something, but he was like, I didn't even see you die.
I can understand that, yeah.
So I was like, maybe on the director's cut.
Dude, one thing we did skip over is the sexy Doc making Roxy fucking horny, though. That is one of my favorite lines that I've heard in a B movie in probably all year up to this point, actually. Like, the Doc is just so sexy, it's making me fucking horny. Every time I see one, because we have a lot of those like floating docks around here.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I'm going to be thinking, does it make me horny? Maybe. I don't know.
In the daylight at that.
I've never got a broad daylight blowjob on a fucking floating dock before, so it's entirely possible. Well, there's still time, my friend. There's still time for all of us. We could add a little Camp Murder to our bucket lists and get out there and try to experience that.
You might have to pay a hooker extra for that.
Maybe. I feel like a nice, fully lit dock in the springtime. It's probably a lot better.
Might not be bad.
They're usually handing out those blowies, so they might even do it for free.
Oh man, yeah, that's not even work.
The stoner headshot best effects so far was the other dude, where he gets his fucking noggin split by the fucking machete, Dawn of the Dead style. Really like.
Yeah, that was cool.
Kyle gets gutted right after that, and I would say that's probably the second best effects, at least at the point where I was writing the notes. Yeah, there it is. Beautiful.
Behind the scenes. There's Mark and Will over there. It was fun. This was right after filming the tent sequence, like the opening stuff. And funny little tidbit about this, in the scene when he's looking for his joint right before he gets killed, he takes off the vest because it was shot out of sequence, so he didn't want to get blood on the vest, so he needed a reason to take off the white vest and not get blood on it. So that's why
the way he runs away, he's got like a spring in his step too. It's adorable.
Gotta find that joint. He's missing out on the skinny dipping.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, I've been in that position where I lost my only joint recently, and it can suck a little bit. Dr. Lewis and Tommy's mom arrive, which I don't know. That's the only part of the movie I feel like was just sort of forced in there to pad it out a little bit, I guess. Like that, and the watchers getting killed felt like they were just in there to be in there. I'm sure the lady was a sweet woman that was running around with Dr. Lewis there for a minute, and the backstory is like okay, but I don't know, it didn't feel super necessary. But they're in there. And then you get a brief snippet where it's Tommy versus Wyatt finally. I love how Wyatt has a gun, and then he's just like, let's do a knife fight instead because I'm such a badass with a chain wallet. And then he just gets his crotch fucking gouged pretty violently.
Yep.
It's a good scene. I liked it quite a bit.
I got very much Busta Rhymes and Halloween Resurrection on that fight.
That's what I thought. That crossed my mind when watching that.
But I mean, his name was already Tommy, so we couldn't get that sweet element of like Busta calling Mikey the whole time, you know?
Right.
Oh, Mikey. That's one of my favorite things about Resurrection. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought that was kind of a lot of buildup for the Wyatt character to have it end so quickly. I figured that would have been more of a knockdown, drag out fight, but we're working on a time constraint and a budget with this motherfucker right here. So you're not exactly going to get Jet Li fight choreography going on in there.
I mean, he definitely lasted the longest out of anyone else as far as one-on-one going.
He'd last a lot longer if he just fucking shot him instead of pulling out his Spirit Halloween knife. But I mean,
he did get shot later on, and that didn't seem to slow him down too much.
We'll get through our issues with the ending of this thing because there are several. But, you know, the slutty reporter arriving, this is what's in my notes. I forget the character's name. It just says slutty reporter arrives and admits to being a piece of shit, you know. So she basically outs herself for, because the whole time Dr. Lewis is like, I'm in love with this girl.
Well, after he confesses his love to her.
Yeah, he confesses, and she's just like, dude, I was just fucking railroading you the whole time so I could get the story here. Like, I don't give a shit about you. I'm just trying to get famous through the story, which is a trope in horror. I feel like maybe not the best executed here, but it is cool that they put a nod to the slutty reporters of the past in horror history because they're out there for sure. But she's she might be the best actor in the movie, if I'm honest. She was really delivering the goods as that character. Nice tits too for being an older woman, but man, was she delivering the goods when it came to reading the dialogue. Like, she felt like, you know what I mean, on almost like that elevated, like a J.R. Bookwalter tip of, I could buy her in one of those movies, or, you know, slightly higher tier, low budget shit, you know. Her and then you guys all felt like you knew what you were doing, or like had a feel for what you were trying to do. And then basically every other character in the movie, other than maybe Roxy, felt like they were a little out of their depth, you know. They were winging it for a friend, or like testing their toes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to, you know, knock any of it or discourage them. And maybe some of them, like Dr. Lewis, had done several movies. I don't know. But it just felt like you guys were delivering the goods from page to screen a little better than some of the other people in the movie.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I honestly didn't feel that in the moment. Like, looking back, like even before this, like if I could do it again, I would do it a little bit different. Like some delivery, some lines, and kind of the flow of it. But I know some of it's a little out of my hands with the script. So thanks for noticing that.
Yeah, man. I feel like maybe if they stuck less rigidly to the script with a lot of it too, it would have given it more of an organic.
That's what I tried to do, because the other two things I did with Will before this, Theater of Horror and Bloody Nun, we just, like, what script? You know, we were just
that's something.
going.
That's something I've learned from like actually being on set with Will, is that whatever the script is, don't memorize it.
Yeah,
because it's probably
that's why going into Camp Murder, I didn't really, like, me and Victor were planning on kind of just, you know, keeping our dynamic going and basing it off whatever's happening in the scene, not necessarily just the dialogue. But so that was kind of surprising to see that on Camp Murder. But in a way, that was good, because it was, you know, they knew exactly what they needed to shoot, and like the scenes and the lines, and so they got their shit done. So that was good overall.
And of course, you know, the slutty reporter revealing herself leads to her being like stabbed and left for dead, and then getting her throat slit, which I thought was everything with that lady in the movie was pretty great. Even the greasy sex interrogation scene was well executed. You know, I thought it was all shot pretty well. Did you have any interaction with that lady on set, or was that like something that was shot after the main weekend of you guys on the camping trip?
So we actually did it on I think we went to Pennsylvania. I had to take off work, I remember. It was a Monday, Tuesday, we left Wednesday. So then I think they finished other sequences that Wednesday, Thursday. So it was like afterwards. So everyone that I'm in the scenes with is pretty much the only people that we really met.
Right on. And that seems to be the way that most movies, like even outside of low budget movies, work. I mean, there's tons of people, even A-list Hollywood people that are in movies together and never actually saw each other on set. With these summer camp slasher movies, it seems the bulk of it is filmed during like sort of a camping trip, you know, or like a weekend get together where everyone goes out and does the shit. And then they film all the pickup stuff and post and like stitch it together to be more of a full movie, you know. After that, I've got it as final campers are confronted, because at this point I stopped counting Roxy and her husband as campers. They were just, you know, the leading people in the movie, I guess. This is where you get the CGI head chop, ... Sorry, Matt.
I'm sorry for myself.
It bummed me out, dude. And then they do a practical head chop basically for Roxy later, which is like, just why was it?
My chop was technically practical, but the blood and the chopping itself was CGI, which, you know. But I was there. I think it was right when you left I explained this, but we put on like the silicone prop of just like the headless cut thing in the torso. So we took off my shirt, put it on there, and then just like
I heard you talked about that.
Shot that. So it was very simple to shoot. It took like 5 minutes, and I was just there shirtless, holding my torso.
Dude, I just have such an issue with this weird like superimposed CGI chop art shit that these guys are clipping.
Yeah, I hate it.
Movies.
I fucking hate it.
That's one of the main reasons I hate more than one entry in the Camp Blood franchise is shit like that. Like, it just ruins the whole vibe of it, because it just feels lazy and not in like a funny tongue-in-cheek kind of a way. But this was at least quick. I'll give it to that for Camp Murder. Like, it's in there so quick. Like you said, it's a blink, you'll miss it. Your friend even kind of did. So it's not egregious use of it. It's just in there real fast. Like, maybe they wanted it to look better when they actually shot it, but then the blood didn't kind of do what they wanted, so they threw it in afterwards, which I can respect that. And then we get the bimbo foo, like we talked about. You know, we get, you know, Roxy goes full wrestler mode after that point. You know, admits to being in love with Kyle's character and tries to fucking kill her husband instead of focusing on the murderer. Like, when she was doing that, I was like, oh shit, she's gonna have like a badass showdown with this masked killer guy, right? And then she's just like, fuck that, I'm gonna kill this husband for real. I guess she really loved Kyle. I don't know.
Yeah, it was funny.
What do you guys think of that whole twist in the thing? And I mean, I can't be the only one who thought she was going to go against Tommy and not.
Yeah, that's what it felt like it was leading up to. Like, in terms of like the shooting, like, it felt like she was going to be the final girl.
Yeah,
which she kind of was, but well, was she? I don't really remember. You guys seen it more recently than I did, but
no, she gets her head fucking chopped off, dude. Like, in a much more gruesome, practical fashion than he did, which bums me out.
Seems to be a running theme, but what's it called? Yeah, I was definitely expecting that, but with the romance stuff, I thought that was funny. Like, in the theater, like, I was laughing.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Not at it.
And then when she reveals that she was much more interested in it than she appeared to be, because when it doesn't work out and Kyle gets killed, they're just sort of like, oh, our friend was killed. This is fucked up. Like, she just sort of, you know, abandons the scheme. But then all of a sudden she decides, nah, I'm going to go through with it and really try to choke this fool out. In the middle of like the final battle with the slasher killer, which was kind of fun, actually. That it just devolves into nonsense at the end. But I really like the whole scene with oh shit, that means we are at definitely approaching the 2 hour point. I really like the fucking whole scene with Tommy's mom getting shot and him like crying and then just basically giving up and the dude shoots him. It is conceivable you could shoot someone like that and them still be alive afterwards. I don't know if they're going to be alive enough to fully suit back up in their mask and shit and, come at you slasher killer style, but they might be able to walk out of the barn. Obviously science and proper logic is not something we try to apply to these movies too often because it make them a whole hell of a lot less fun. But I like the idea of him like thinking he's one and he can be the true. They sort of give you a half twist at the end of this one where it's like, oh shit, this guy's the real psycho, but then Tommy's still alive and obviously punches like a pork cutlet out of his tummy. And, that's sort of the end of the movie, eh? Like,
pretty much. A little more ass kicking, and
did Chuck get killed? I forget if Chuck died. Is he the final boy?
Didn't he get killed in the water? I remember Tim, the guy who plays him.
I feel like he gets out of the water. And then they're like, "Oh God, he's just gone," or whatever. And then
that's when Will shows up with a gun and shoots him in the water.
Yeah, then that's the end. Yeah.
That wasn't the end on the cut that I saw. Like after that, fucking he reveals that his face is like another mask.
Oh yeah, he pulls it up and kind of looks around and then swims away.
Yeah. Which you can see the entire time through most of the movie. I kept thinking it was a Toxic Avenger mask under there because of the lazy eye, but it turned out to just be some mask they'd made or whatever, which is fine. The ending felt like the whole forced homage to the Jason jumping out of the lake water. That was another issue I had with the movie where it's like this just feels kind of like pieced together and thrown in there.
It was literally the same ending as Freddy versus Jason.
Basically, but with one character.
Yeah, with one less head.
But there was two masks, so it made up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's sort of the end of this. Roxy's head, chop was probably the meatiest gore in the movie because we did get her head chopped off and we saw a stump spurting some blood. I think it's kind of what they wanted your kill to look like. You know what I mean?
I just had to die,
Well, from the way you're describing it, it sounds like you held a similar rig. It was meant to lop the head off, maybe some blood spurt out of it or something.
Yeah. I don't even remember a head. I just remember the torso.
Right.
So everything else was the CGI or whatever effect that was.
I do like how Tommy kind of goes limp as soon as they fall into the water, like water was his weakness almost for a minute, but then he reanimates and like starts fighting. I almost kind of took that as a slight dig at Freddy versus Jason, where for some reason water is Jason's weakness out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's funny.
I don't know if it was that well thought out or he was just like, oh man, this mask just made me breathe in like 2 good breaths of water. Give me a second. But it looked like it could have went either way, and I was pretty fine with that. And then the last thing on my notes is Tommy vanishes as like a Friday the 13th tribute / face reveal, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
2.5.
Who knows what's next?
Out of 5. Yeah, I don't know, man. I like this movie quite a bit. Like I said, do I love it? Not yet. Maybe I will one day.
Hey man, I would even take if you said it's all right. So that's really nice to hear.
I'd say it's more than all right, even better than okay, and on the cusp of being something pretty fucking great. I think anything about it that held it back from being that is no fault of you guys that participated in it. It's just the little quirks and kinks that go along with making low budget projects, and maybe trying to get them done in a time crunch as opposed to getting them done right to the best of the ability. And that's just sort of the reality of making these things. It doesn't necessarily reflect the capability of the people involved. I'm sure all of you guys, given several $1,000s and multiple weeks or something to work on this thing, could have done something way better than what it turned out.
Yeah. But for what it was, I was happy to do it.
For sure.
That's cool. And I think we're all better. Well, I could probably only speak for myself. I don't know what anyone else is doing, but I think I'm better at acting now than I was then.
Yeah, you're all better for doing it,
Yeah, and that was the time where like I wasn't expecting to act, and it's been like a long time. It was like that was in summer of 2020. I didn't do anything that year up to that point, so I kind of just got right back into it.
Right
So that's why
on.
now looking back, I would do stuff a little different, but overall, it was cool.
There's always that chance for a sequel, baby. Tommy's still out there.
He is.
I'm still right here listening to you guys. I got to put this little tiny kitten back in the cage over here. So I'm listening, but I'm just not on camera.
Gotcha. Forrest, if you could put a little pin on this, is your like general just how your thoughts looking back on Camp Murder, just your thoughts and feelings on how you feel the movie came out and everything.
I mean, for me, this is my first time. This is my first time as a producer on a feature film. So looking back, it's very exciting, very special to me. Just because it was again my first time. I mean, prior to that, I had just done like behind the scenes work as a PA and as a crew member on film shoots. But this is my first time producing, and it's not. I mean, it's got. I mean, I was pretty set, and I was happy with how it turned out, warts and all. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a fun movie. And I'm glad I got to know a lot of the cast, and even though I wasn't on set with the cast and crew when they were shooting, but I have met them. I have worked with them on other projects on set. So I'm glad. Like me and Matt have done a lot of stuff with Trauma. So and then like others like Jamie, Pam. I got to work on set with them on other productions from Will. And actually, I've actually worked on shoots with Will himself. They're very good, very good bunch of people to work with. And yeah, I'm happy. I was just overall happy with how it turned out. Very proud of it. I mean, yeah, I'm not getting rich. I mean, none of us are getting rich and famous doing this, but we do it for the art. And as cliche as that sounds, we do it for the. It's for the love of the art.
Hey man, some cliches are good cliches.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I was pretty happy. But yeah, I mean, it was very yeah. I mean, the whole thing was it was a pleasure to be part of this whole project, and to get to know all these fine people who put all this time into getting it made.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see people have seen it.
Yeah,
we exist.
I don't think about those things.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I guess, I mean, same question at Matt. I mean, what's been your main takeaway from doing this? You shared quite a bit over the course of this discussion. But
all that and just the experience of like everything I work on. I think what I take away most from it is like who I work with, and it kind of a lot of times like in history with my career, it's always like snowballed from like working on this, and then I got to work a lot with Pam and Will again on 2 other things after this, and now I know Mark Polonia and his crew, and became like we're all friends on Facebook and stuff. So it's cool. Like it's kind of we all like help each other grow, like with our projects or as actors or just as friends. So that's my main takeaway, and it's like more experience.
This dude's got it figured out, man. He's our people. We're not really into the guys that are doing the faux Hollywood thing, thinking they're out here, being the next whatever. It's the love and the passion of it that drives you to contribute to this shit at this point. None of us are going to ever reinvent the wheel. And if we do, it'll be entirely by accident.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we will, and maybe we will get bigger stuff, but like it'll be nice, but we just do what we do.
Yeah, you're about meeting the people and doing the stuff and getting the experience of doing it and
the money. Don't forget about the money.
Oh yeah, all the bankroll has to be pretty sweet.
Still waiting for these residuals,
They got lunch boxes, Tamagotchis, everything coming out after this shit.
Yeah. Gonna have to get my convention rates in order.
Get some 8x10s printed out.
Yeah, working on
and
it.
actually
Need a
buy
printer
one
first.
of those.
No, if all that happens, that's amazing. But you can't be expecting that, because then your headspace is not going to get you to the right places.
Yeah, and you're not going to have fun, you know. A lot of these projects don't get seen by a lot of people, and this one's feels like it's gotten seen by more than most, you know.
Yeah, like I've worked on like pretty big, like mostly background gigs, but like pretty big like productions, but like it's all the same energy as, you know, holding and meeting other actors, and sometimes it's whether it's, you know, with a single DSLR or, you know, a whole light rig at a studio, which I've been around. It's, you know, you kind of get the same thing out of it at the end of it.
Yeah, and I think if you start in this kind of stuff, it's easier to look at it that way, you know, where it's like you can appreciate the fact that there's bigger production value, but it's the same vibe if you're around the same kinds of people, you know. Legit's legit. Doesn't matter if you're making 7 figures or you're making, you know, a cheese sandwich and a couple of, you know, a cameo for your nug of weed, you know. It's like it's a good time, man. This movie is a good time to watch, so I'd highly recommend to everybody out there, you know, give it a go. If you're into this kind of low budget, micro budget slasher stuff, I would argue that you could have retitled this and put it as Camp Blood First Slaughter, and I would not be complaining, you know.
I honestly thought it was a spinoff.
Entries. Yeah, well, I think maybe part of me did too at first when I saw you guys talking about it, like back when it was on the way. But yeah, man, I don't know.
When I heard the word camp in Polonia, I figured it was just like, you know, a redoing, like a reimagining or a prequel or something.
And it might as well be.
Pretty cool.
I mean, the only difference is that it's not a clown mask, you know.
Yeah. So I think it's
First Slaughter sucks. That's really the takeaway from this.
I was gonna say for a prequel, it should be called Camp Murder First Day, but like
something just to take away from that shit, you know. Cody sent me a First Slaughter review earlier, and I still haven't recovered from it because it reminded me how much I fucking hated that movie.
It was a funny review, though.
It was, and the Camp Blood 4 one was as well. But man, do those movies stoink, and not in a good way. This movie stoinks in a fun way, you know. It's like it's not perfect, but it's also not fucking miserable, you know. I'm sorry, man. You guys did way more justice to those First Slaughter locations than they did shooting that, because it did seem like a pretty fun place. I mean, it's like the kind of place that I'd go like drink beer with a bunch of people and shoot some bottle rockets into the fucking, you know, pond and maybe jump naked into it at some point. Like a lot of the events that were meant to happen in the movie might happen if we were out there for like a drunken weekend. I mean,
that's what half of it was.
Yeah, those are my favorite kind of locations where it feels like a place where it's like, you know what? These characters are fine or whatever. Generic camper, nice to meet you. But I'm really more in love with looking at the spot that they're at for a minute. Other than your guys' lack of like proper mountains in the background, it looks pretty similar to a lot of places around here as well. We have a lot of those like manicured parks next to ponds with like floating ducks kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, I heard there's a lot of good nature out there.
What I just described is not among it, but yes, we've got some great nature shit. Well, and that's something that we don't think about a lot too when we watch movies like these. Like what you guys were hanging out there in probably more than likely was the same kind of manufactured nature that we have over here, where it's like a stock pond. You know, it might be up by a mountain, but that thing wasn't there 30,000 years ago or something. You know? This is like something that they put in here to put this boardwalk around so you could feed some ducks, you know. And that's fine. Those are good. I'm eyeballing a couple places like that out here to shoot some movies in the very near future. But
sweet. Do it.
I think there's something to be said about shooting those movies in the proper backwoods too, where you like if you get lost, you might die, you know. And I don't think there's really any of them that have ever been shot like that, slasher movie wise. It's always not to claim cred for it, but the only fucking movie I can think of that's done anything remotely like that is Just Before Dawn, which is a movie that was shot out here in Oregon, and they went like fairly deep into some state parks to shoot some of those scenes at some pretty monumental locations, you know, like you're not exactly fully removed from society, but you're out there where like it's like a 4-hour hike if you get fucked up, especially in the like late 80s or the late 70s making a movie out there.
Oh god,
you're out
He's
there,
asking for trouble.
Yeah, there's no sat phone that you can use to call for a fucking like airlift, you know. You're fucked, like you're out there in the wilderness, you know. And there's something scary about that when you're watching that movie Just Before Dawn. It's like it feels super dangerous what they're doing. I'm not saying like I want to put people in that position, but I think that it would add to something like this if you guys were like actually in the woods, like hike 3 or 4 hours into there and find like some cool spots that you've previously location scouted and like sort of do it Just Before Dawn style. But obviously we have modern technology, like your cell phone's probably not going to get service here, but
yeah,
we've got a satellite phone that we can get help with, kind of a thing. So
a PA might go missing, but
at least it was just a PA.
Oh.
Sorry for it. I think me and you are the red shirts in this occasion. All us PAs are gonna just drop off. Dude, how sick would that be as a concept for a fucking horror?
The PA goes missing,
dude. Yeah, like they're shooting a slasher film in this context, and somebody's picking off all the least noticeable people on set until they're all gone, you know?
Until they really need them.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That'd be great.
You better trademark that before I do.
I think we did, just by talking about it on the internet, hopefully. Feel free to run with it, my friend. I'm not going to shoot that shit.
I'm a terrible writer, but that's an idea right there.
So you guys got anything you want to plug? I guess we are kind of at the end of this.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm working. Well, so I was just recently. A few months ago, I acted in Camp Blood 666 Part 2, Exorcism of the Clown, which was directed by Will, and it just came out on DVD this week. And then tomorrow I'll be filming my scenes for Hamityville Turkey Day, also directed by Will.
I may or may not see you there tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see you on set tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's
adorable.
adorable.
I'm still in negotiations, but yeah, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, I'll probably be there.
You guys should send us a photo together from the set so that we can show it on Monday. We do a follow-up show to this on Mondays called Schlock Talk, where we just talk about a bunch of schlock and what we've watched in the last week, you know. Not always schlock related. Pretty sure I'm going to be talking about that Planet of the Apes trilogy on there, the modern one, not the old school shit.
Nice.
But yeah. I don't know, you got anything you want to plug there, Matt?
Not really plug, but if anyone wants to see what I'm up to day to day, I post every day on like my Instagram story and post just what I'm doing. I make music a little bit. I'm shopping around for an agent to get a little more like serious roles in the New York area. I have my eye on some things, trying to take it a little next level as much as I can. But yeah, I work on stuff like this and I love talking about it. I don't think I have anything else really coming out right now. I may be working on the Hamityville Turkey Day tomorrow. I was in, if you've seen Terrifier 2, I'm in that for a couple seconds, but that doesn't need to be plugged any more than it has already. But yeah, that's all I got.
It's on my list. I watched Terrifier for the first time just last year. So
yeah, they filmed it in New Jersey near me almost 3 years ago, and now it started coming out and it got huge. So it's cool to see that pay off.
See, I'm one of those dudes, man, like wholeheartedly and it's not me trying to be cool. It just is the way that my taste works. But I'm aware of all that shit, but it usually takes me years to actually watch it because I'm watching like some bullshit from 1994.
But no, it's cool to see like this crowdfunded horror.
It's super rad.
Film be playing in like every multiplex in America.
like I feel like secondhand proud of the Terrifier shit, you know, because it's like the stuff we all like absolutely dominating for a minute, you know.
Yeah, that's like this stuff, this whole like genre corner of horror. It's like that part, it's winning, you know. It's like
Yeah.
you know being seen on a huge level, which is crazy. So to
It
be
does it
at
every
all
now and
involved with
again.
that was great.
You know, I felt that. I mean, I guess on a more extreme level, like with Blair Witch Project, I was like, I don't give a shit about this because this isn't my type of horror movie. But I am super like hyped on that shit too for being as successful as it was because it's same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Low budget, like weird kid corner horror going, you know, dominating the mainstream motherfuckers for a minute.
Yeah, so I guess whatever crazy horror B projects we got to make, I guess we just got to create them if we want to see it.
Yep.
Pretty much.
So I'm all about that.
And you're welcome back on here anytime you like, man. You seem like a good dude. So we do Schlock Talks on Mondays. We talk about what we've picked up, what we've watched in the last week, and then just general.
My shelves are about to fall over. You can't really see
that.
It's dark, but that's like a quarter of it.
And hopefully next time I'm on here, it'll be back. I'll be back in my living room in a little more quiet environment.
Yeah, dude. You're down to get on in any environment where that baseball cap bill seems less intimidating because that looks long as fuck right now, and it has been it's been on my mind for several minutes. Look at it.
It's a serious hat.
It is. It's not playing. So we are obviously, you know, Cody and Mo. Do you have anything, Cody, that you've done outside of Schlockaholics you want to plug? Shit. So.
Actually, you remembered me this time. Came out a few days ago. I did Phil Herman's Doomsday Stories. It's an anthology series. I am in part of Joel Wynkoop's short 187 times, and he just decided that that's also going to be made into a full-length movie that this week just shot scenes for that. And then I have a little picture cameo in Camp Blood 666 Part 2. And then also I'm going to be doing a remote role for Amityville Turkey Day.
Hey.
That's super cool, dude. My name is Mo. With any luck, I'll not appear in any movies or TV shows or anything like that for the foreseeable future. I would like to keep it that way. This cat's freaking out. It's got something to say as well. I'm not sure what it's trying to plug, though. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We also do a Monday show called Schlock Talk that we've alluded to. So check us out over there. When do you leave on the cruise, Cody?
I leave on Friday.
To do our schedule. Okay, so you'll be here on Monday then.
Yep.
Okay. So this Monday will feature Cody. Next Monday, don't know what I'm going to do. Might get a little weird. If you're free, Matt, you're welcome to come on.
Next Monday?
Yeah, next Monday.
What time do you do?
We usually roll out at 4:30 p.m. or
so that's
5.
7:30 p.m. for me. That's perfect.
Yeah. So we can rock that, talk about what we've watched in the last week, all that good stuff.
I'm on a big Argento and David Lynch kick right now. So I know it's very on a different angle from all the B stuff, but
I just got the Videodrome like Criterion in recently, so
nice. I've watched Mulholland Drive like 6 times in the last month.
Never clicked with that one.
Yeah, it's not a clickable movie.
I don't know. Maybe
but one day it will. One day it will. One day you'll be 2 hours and 10 minutes into the movie, and you'll be like, "I get it."
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, you know.
It took me a while, but I'm there, baby. I'm there.
Fuck yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, then we got it sorted out. You know, the week that Cody's going to be gone, we're going to have Matt from Camp Murder.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you on some social platform, or I'll have Forrest be my middleman again.
Oh, I'm sure I'm going to friend you on Facebook right after.
Yeah, find me. You'll find me.
You got a Facebook, or are you one of those new lads that only use
I got one.
And the Twitters? Because we're going to be, I'm making our Schlock Talk, or our Schlockaholics fucking Twitter account at some point this week.
That's the only one I don't use, so find me anywhere else.
We need a Twitter and an Instagram, I feel like, because you never know what people use, you know? I'm an old dude, I guess, now. guess all of us on Facebook are old people, from what I've been told.
Yep.
It's just easy though. And my grandma, or well, theoretically, my grandma is dead, literally. But in theory, if she was alive, she could have a Facebook, and maybe she does without me knowing it, even being dead. It's hard to say.
You never know. Mark Zuckerberg isn't human, so it doesn't matter. Who knows what could happen, you know?
Pretty sure Elon Musk isn't either. I feel like they're from the same type of society that would put a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's in the background of their stream just to convince us that they're actually real people.
Well, we can get into a whole other pod if you want to start that conversation.
We can do some of that shit too. So look forward to me and Matt doing goofy shit on the internet maybe in the future as well. This has been another episode.
I'll be there for it.
Maybe. I think we did this movie justice. I don't know. You guys were, one of you was there and one of you paid for it. So what do you think? We do a good job?
I agree. Yes.
All right. Cody's mostly to credit for that, but I was there too. I've been Mosley. You've been a bunch of sexy beasts. And we'll see you back here next time.